I spent about more than a week with the Fiddlerman medium tension strings, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you my perspective. Are these strings worth it for the price? Let's dive right in. And also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, my name is Eric. I do a lot of violin product reviews, violin tips. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications, so that way you get notified for when new content comes out. I bought this Fiddlerman medium tension string just so that, because inflation is crazy, dominant strings are high, in terms of price. You know, there's so much on the market these days for instrumentalists and for violinists in particular. You really don't know which is going to sound the best on your instrument. I actually made a separate video on the actual sound quality of the Fiddlerman medium tension strings, and I'm going to leave another link down in the description below so that you can take a look at that, or I'm just going to leave a card right over here. And that video was 5 days after I put the strings on. Normally string players have questions: how do they sound right out of the box? How do they sound 5 days later? How do they sound in the real world setting? Well, I can tell you that I'm pleasantly surprised with the Fiddlerman medium tension strings for a couple of reasons. I'm really impressed with the quality of the strings for this price point. And fiddlershop.com, which is the store that sells these strings exclusively on their website, they argue that these strings are just as good as the dominant strings. And if you have taken a look at the dominant string price lately, it's almost nearing $80 for a set of dominant strings. But Fiddler Shop argues that this is just as good as the dominants. But are they? In some ways, the Fiddlerman strings compare a little bit to the dominant strings. They kind of have this grainy sound underneath your ear when you play them right out of the box. But as you warm up to them, as the violin gets used to the strings and the strings get used to your violin, the violin actually warmed up in my surprise. And the reason why I say that is because I actually had a chance to perform these strings in an orchestral setting. So I can give you my experience with them. I felt that these strings felt really nice underneath my fingers. I wouldn't say that they're feeling as good as like the Tomastic Luthier series or the Dominant Pros, or even a little bit higher end strings like the Peter Infeld and Tomastic. But for anyone who is looking to be on a budget this season and wanting to get like really affordable strings and get a decent sound for a shorter period of time, look no further than the Fiddlerman, because these are really an awesome option for anyone who is a beginner, intermediate violinist. However, there are some cons to this string when it comes to like real world professional settings. In general, in my opinion, it's very difficult to play this in an orchestral setting because I feel like you do kind of stick out in a section. Unfortunately, did not get too many different tone colors from the string. I felt like it's very much one kind of color. So if I was able to do like a sur la touche over the fingerboard or try to blend with my stand partner, it did take extra effort for me to do that. Not that it's not possible, but for me, in my experience, I felt like it was going to be a little bit of a challenge to do that. I have to put in like an extra effort to do that. So difficult to blend. Not that it's not possible, as I said, you can still blend, just a little bit difficult, and you might have to put in extra work. And typically when you buy strings, you want strings that can kind of do it all. They want to feel nice under the hand. They want to have the ability to work with any kind of rosin. Speaking of rosin for this, I use a more of a supple rosin. I use like the Leatherwood supple, but in my opinion, I feel like these strings would be good for like darker rosins. So I would recommend maybe I would say the lightest would be like a Gustav Bernadel rosin. If you're familiar with that brand, it's a really cheap rosin for $10. You could also get it on fiddlershop.com, which I'll leave a link down in the description below. But there are also other options for like rosin string combinations. I would say that like if you're a professional violinist in an emergency situation, these are really good cheap backup strings, and they do the job just fine, and they actually kind of match the price of the tonica, the Parastro tonicas. So if you're looking to either get the Parastro tonicas or the Fiddlerman strings, I feel like you have to order these online. You know, they're not accessible everywhere, and that's the downside. You can't just buy like Fiddlerman strings in like your local shop. I feel like most of these Fiddlerman strings are going to be sold on fiddlershop.com. So that's the only downside. You get them delivered. I do have to say though that the fiddlershop.com team, they are really good about shipping. I got these strings within like a couple days. So that's something that you might want to consider if you do have like a little bit of time in between concert cycles and you want to get these strings, give them a try. that's something that you can do. But for the beginner intermediate violinist, these are a great option. I cannot recommend these enough because parents are always looking for affordability in terms of the strings, because violin accessories, strings, maintenance can get really pricey really quick. So I recommend these strings for anyone who is looking to be on a budget, doesn't want to spend a fortune, doesn't know if their student is going to be learning the violin for a longer period of time, just want to have a clean set of strings that your teacher is requiring you to get. I would recommend these. I'll leave a link down in the description below for the Fiddlerman medium tension strings. Also, be sure to check out my unboxing video, which is going to be right over here for you to take a look at to see how these strings sound right out of the box. Take a look.